Thank you for joining us. If you care about civil liberties, immigration enforcement, and what government power looks like in practice, you are going to want to stay with us. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you do not miss our ongoing coverage of these hearings and what they really mean for everyday people.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here. You know, Michigan's a border state, so we need each other. We have a very big bridge that's being inaugurated, ribbon cut in September. We need that to be fully staffed. We have a lot going on in Michigan as a northern border state, so we need each other. But what I'm concerned about is that you've taken the mandate to close off the border beyond going after, as you say, the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants. I'm a CIA officer. I worked my entire life to protect the homeland. If someone's here illegally, they need to not be here. They've committed a crime by being here. They need to go back to wherever they're from. But my concern is that either through sloppiness or intent, you have gone far beyond going after the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants and gone into legal immigrants who were given the ability to be here, and even American citizens. And when I think about that, you know, there are lots of people in this country, including me, who have families who fled this kind of environment where they have no rights, where they have no due process, where they don't have habeas corpus. So while I'll be the first to say, coming from a state that was won by Trump, that there is a mandate to do something about the border, I think it is absolute dangerous overreach to go beyond that and start picking up American citizens and people who have the legal right to be here, lawful immigrants who have done everything right. So first and foremost, do you acknowledge that your department has made some mistakes, any mistakes, in going after either American citizens or legal immigrants here in the time that you've been in office?
We have not deported any U.S. citizens.
Detained?
Or people get interviewed. If they get interviewed and they go through that process and we find that they're U.S. citizens or legal immigrants, they stay in the United States.
Have you deported
we have to go through the vetting process.
Have any American citizens, including children, been deported during your time in office?
We have children that mothers have chosen to keep with them. So those
by my count, you have 10 American citizens, including children with cancer, who have been deported out of the country. I understand you're saying it's their choice.
But
it's hard to imagine a small child having a choice. But have you gone after legal immigrants? Again, your standard in your opening statement was the most dangerous illegal immigrants. Does that include PhD students and master's students at colleges across the country, unarmed? Are they the most dangerous illegal when they have status and no weapons?
I don't decide who gets status through a student program. The Department of State decides that, and we enforce it.
Oh, come on.
That's what our Department of Homeland Security does.
I just would offer that, again, I have no qualms with going after folks who are here illegally. That is not my concern. That was part of my job, was to prevent people from coming here illegally in a former life. My concern is you're sending a chill down the spine of America by going after people who either have legal status or American citizens. And when my colleagues ask you about habeas corpus, and you say, literally, we can review the tape, that you believe it's a right the president has, you sat here in front of all of us and swore an oath to the Constitution, and that is not at all what habeas corpus is. It is a right that we all get, that American citizens get, that people who are in the United States legally have. So my concern is it's complete overreach. I don't think American citizens, even those who voted for Trump, believe that you should be able to just grab someone off the street, sloppy, who has the legal right to be here, and certainly an American citizen. And I just am concerned that while you say you're going after the most dangerous folks, what you're actually doing is going after folks for political reasons, right? A PhD student that's unarmed is not at the top of the list.
And we're not deporting U.S. citizens, and we're not deporting people who have legal status here.
10 American citizens
If the children have gone with their parents, it's because their parents wanted them with them. So let me ask you another question about cybersecurity. You know, you've cut $500 million from the budget. What specific programs are you cutting? Because there are programs that really aid states and locals that we depend on for cybersecurity. And we know that right now, while we may have good security in the federal government, if you are a local state
official, you're depending on the federal government. So have you cut the ISAC program, the program to states and locals on cybersecurity?
The president's recommended budget has a reduction in $491 million.
Does it cut that program? I've heard the talking point.
And what it's doing is putting CISA
program
back on mission.
And it's
you can't
ensuring
say
that this is the most
cybersecurity is going to be strengthened.
You cannot say it's the most cyber secure administration if you're cutting the program to my state and to your state.
It will
and if you
be
look
when
on
we-
record, that's what you've cut. I yield back.
Time has expired. Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, good to see you.
Today's hearing with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem revealed something far bigger than a policy disagreement. It exposed a fundamental tension between border enforcement and constitutional rights, and it did so in a way that has left many Americans uneasy. The exchange came from a senator representing Michigan, a northern border state with unique security challenges. She began by acknowledging something important, that border states depend on cooperation with federal agencies, especially with major infrastructure projects like the new international bridge set to open later this year. That context matters because it makes clear this was not an anti-enforcement argument. It was a warning about overreach. The senator made her background clear. She is a former CIA officer who spent her career protecting the homeland. She stated plainly that people who are in the country illegally have broken the law and should not be here. That is not where the disagreement lies. The concern, she said, is that under Secretary Noem's leadership, the Department of Homeland Security has gone beyond targeting what the administration calls the most dangerous illegal immigrants, and has instead swept up legal immigrants and even American citizens. This is where the hearing took a sharp turn. The senator raised fears that either through sloppiness or intent, DHS enforcement actions are beginning to resemble the kinds of systems many immigrant families fled in the first place, systems without due process, without meaningful legal protections, without habeas corpus. Those are not abstract concepts. Habeas corpus is the right to challenge unlawful detention, and it is one of the oldest protections in constitutional law. Secretary Noem was asked directly whether her department had made any mistakes, specifically whether American citizens or legal immigrants had been deported during her time in office. Her answer was firm. She said no U.S. citizens have been deported, and that if individuals are interviewed and found to be citizens or legal residents, they are allowed to remain. The senator then broadened the issue. She questioned whether DHS is truly focusing on dangerous individuals or whether enforcement has expanded to include people with legal status, such as international students pursuing advanced degrees. She asked directly whether unarmed PhD and master's students who entered the country lawfully and have no criminal history could reasonably be considered among the most dangerous individuals. Secretary Noem responded by deflecting responsibility to the Department of State, saying DHS simply enforces status decisions made elsewhere. That answer did little to reassure critics. Enforcement discretion still exists, and the chilling effect is real. When legal immigrants fear that a paperwork issue, a misunderstanding, or a policy shift could lead to detention or removal, the message sent is not about safety, it is about uncertainty and fear. The senator returned to the issue of habeas corpus, referencing earlier remarks from Secretary Noem, suggesting the president has broad authority in this area. The senator reminded her that habeas corpus is not a discretionary privilege. It is a constitutional right held by American citizens and by people legally present in the United States. Questioning or minimizing that right raises alarms far beyond immigration policy. At its core, this exchange was not about whether border enforcement should exist. It was about how far that enforcement can go before it undermines the very freedoms it claims to protect. The senator made clear that even voters who support stronger border controls do not expect American citizens to be grabbed off the street or lawful immigrants to be treated as disposable. And then, almost abruptly, the conversation shifted to cybersecurity. The senator asked about a reported $500 million cut to cybersecurity programs, many of which directly support state and local governments. This pivot was telling. It highlighted a broader concern that DHS priorities may be skewed, with aggressive immigration enforcement expanding while critical infrastructure and digital security programs face reductions. This hearing did not resolve those concerns, but it did put them on the record, where they can be examined, debated, and judged by the public, and that, ultimately, is why these moments matter. Stay with us for continued coverage, deeper analysis, and updates as these policies unfold. And once again, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss what comes next.